well, part one was so good, we thought we'd take an interval and have a part two of the Villa View post-match point in association with Purity. For some reason, every time we played Brighton, the box in the background decided that's a good time to reboot whilst we're live. So apologies for that, but we are back now. We were actually talking away thinking that we were still going out to you, but unfortunately we weren't. So Omar, I'll bring up the point that I was bringing up between the three of us with nobody watching at all. When even Jack's having a bad night, I mean, I think he gave the ball, he made bad touches twice, which I think is unheard of in the modern day Jack Grealish game. When even he's having a bit of an off day and he's not involved in the game, you know it's time to pack away and go home and just be happy with the point, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, it was, he had a bad touch very early on, and it was sort of, my mouth was a bit open because I was like, what? How's that happen? I've just haven't seen him have a bad touch for so long, especially when the ball's drilled out to him on the left. And really, it was probably his worst game this season. Well, most players' worst game this season, to be honest. And when Jack doesn't play well, we don't tend to play well because everything obviously flows through him. But it's just one of those days, Veltman did a good job on him. But I don't know, it's hard to say whether it was Brighton doing a job on us, which it was to some extent, but also I think just generally we were very sloppy. Simple 5-yard passes we were making. McGinn, Barkley, Jack, even Ollie. You saw that sort of touch map at the beginning of towards the end of the first half, and it was Gabby-esque, wasn't it, against Spurs?
Yeah, was it like that Spurs game?
Yeah, it was a bit like that, and very unlike Ollie. He normally gets involved, but it was just poor all over the pitch, really. And luckily, our defense was so good today. But Kufal did well against Jack when we played West Ham, and Jack will get a lot more pressure in games, and teams will set up against him, and maybe before teams might have come up against us and thought, actually, we should play to our strengths and play against Villa and try and win the game. Whereas now they see Villa as more of a threat because of how well we've done the season. So, they're going to come up with plans against our players, and we have to be wise to that. And I think we do need to start varying our play a little bit. We kept Jack on the left. We did it against West Ham, and we kept Jack on the left, and only when he went onto the right did we create anything. I would have liked to have seen a bit more variation in our play. We've got players like Barkley, Traore, Jack, Ollie. They can all switch positions. They can play in different positions. I don't know why we weren't sort of moving players around. That's what the good teams do really well. Teams have done it against us where the wingers have come inside and switched positions and, just try and vary our attacking play and try and create new passing lanes, try and create new avenues to go down. Make it harder for the defenders, make defenders move around a little bit. We need to be doing that, really. I don't know why we weren't doing that. I would like to see Jack come out to the right. I said at halftime I would like to see Keenan Davis come on, to be honest, because I would have liked to see Ollie Watkins go out to the left and maybe try and keep the ball higher up the pitch a bit more. Because Ollie does so well keeping the ball usually, but he struggled today against Dunk, and I think Davis would have done a better job at it today. So I would have seen like something a bit like that, something a bit different. And if I had one criticism of Dean Smith, that has been, in terms of making changes, he doesn't impact the game too much. I can't remember too many subs impacting the game too much this season. So, I mean, we haven't really had to be honest, but there's not been many games where we've had to do that. But I think today was one of them, and we didn't, which is a shame. But I'm sure Jack will get used to getting a lot of attention, and he'll be back to his best anyway in the next game. But yeah, just a bad day at the office, really.
Yeah, I think I texted you on about 75 minutes, Dolan, just before Sanson came on, saying I'd chuck Davis on, do the same thing as Omar just said, just to get something to stick a little bit, because whenever the ball was going into the Brighton half, wasn't staying there for very long, and like Omar said, it would have just pushed us up a bit. And in the first half, I don't think we went down the right hand side once. We kept trying to go down the left, and it wasn't really working. I don't know what Brighton were doing, but they were doing something. But I think Alan Smith even said we didn't even venture down Traore's side in the first half at all, did we? We just never really made anything happen at all.
No, we didn't. I mean, we didn't create anything going forward. So that's why I was a little bit surprised that he didn't make a change to the formation and bring Jack in the middle and try and frame up a little bit. Move Watkins out right or out left to cut inside and then bring on big Keenan. But again, listen, as bad as we were, we've still come away with a point, and I'm still very, very happy that we it's another clean sheet. And I think with the season we're having and the team we have and the fact we're very much a team and a club in transition. We're now a point ahead of last season. which again is massive credit at this stage of the season to be a point ahead. Then we finished 36 points I think now. So we're only 4 points off Liverpool in 4th place. So I think it's when you talk about it like that, it's still pretty staggering how far we've come. And I think we're going to have off nights. Whenever you're in transition, you're going to have bad games, and today was one of those games. And the way we've kind of gone of the last 4 weeks, it's kind of been win, defeat, win, defeat, win, defeat. So tonight we kind of stopped that. We stopped that little mini rot of winning and getting beaten, and winning, getting beat. We managed to scrape a point somehow and come away with a draw. The one negative and the one downfall is Matty Cash. Let's hope it's not an injury, a severe injury. I thought it was cramp at the start, but he came off holding his groin or his thigh, but by the looks of it. So let's hope it's nothing serious. Let's hope it's just a bit of sort of muscle strain or something that's just tightened up on him. But again, players like himself, players like Cash and Watkins, and in fact, most of that 11 have played every minute of every game this season. And, they're going to come down with little injuries and little niggles, and you're going to have off days and on days. And the fact we were so bad, and we managed to get a point. Liverpool couldn't beat Brighton at home. Tottenham couldn't beat Brighton away. Burnley managed to get a draw. So they've been on good form. They don't concede many goals. If their last 5 or 6, they've conceded one. I mean, they've only scored in the games they've won. They've only scored 1 goal. So they don't score many goals. So I think it was a case of we were just very solid at the back, as were they. Every time we got the ball, they just swarmed us. They completely swarmed us. Nobody had any time on the ball, and we rushed. Our passing was rushed. We looked disjointed going forward, but that's credit to Brighton. That's credit to Brighton and the way they play and the way they press. I thought Sanson came on and looked fairly decent. A lot of energy, and I thought he looked good. He looked bright. I don't know if Barkley needs a little bit of time out of that team. I just hope again he's not going to become one of these new fall guys that we seem to.
He appears to be the new fall guy.
He seems to be the new fall guy this week. So Barkley this week, who's next week? Back to Mings, or I don't know. But I mean, I won't single out any player tonight. I thought everybody was poor apart from the goalkeeper and the back 4 for keeping a clean sheet. But listen, very, 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 very happy with that point. We deserved nothing from the game. We created nothing. We were awful from start to finish. Managed to get a point. We're sitting 8th in the league with a game in hand. So, for once you'll not hear me complaining too much.
Omar, have you any idea what our expected goals was for that game? I haven't got a clue. It could be one of the lowest ones.
I think it's 0.18. I think it was, or something stupid like that.
It could be the lowest in Premier League history, couldn't it? I genuinely
it was definitely a worst. Yeah.
Was there a shot? Was there a shot?
Barkley had one.
Barkley had the only shot on target. So
I don't even remember.
There you go. It was a weak effort in the second half, kind of trickled into the keeper, and that was it.
I'm pretty sure it was 0.18. 0.13 actually.
Well, that's higher than I would have anticipated it would have been, to be fair. What do you make of the Barkley stuff, Omar? Because he's coming into a little bit of criticism, and he wasn't at it today like many others. He wasn't involved in the game. But I guess since he's come back from injury, he hasn't given us the impetus that we would have hoped for.
Yeah, I mean, you have to give him a bit of time. Definitely, he's come back from a really bad injury, and he hasn't trained, and he's played a lot of games in a short amount of time. But I think, by now he should be back to his best. There's no real excuses for him, I don't think. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend that, I haven't been critical of Barkley, because I have. And I do think I'm still unsure on him. I've been unsure on him for a while, to be honest, because he's such a good player. But then when you see the levels that Jack can attain to and how consistent he is, and Barkley has that sort of ability in his locker, but he's not as consistent. And far too often he goes down the wrong avenue, plays the wrong pass, or it just floats through games sometimes. A bit like Stephen Ireland did, I remember, back for Villa, in terms of.
Well, he's better than that.
Yeah, no, don't get me wrong. He's much better than that. Don't get me wrong. He's done amazing for us this season, and he started his Villa career with a bang. But I think he has a tendency to float through games where he doesn't impact games, and it's just a shame, though. I think, because he's such a good player, and I think he's made a massive difference to us. But I think we've got to be patient with him a little bit, but at the same time, I don't think Dean Smith will give him too much more time if he continues to play like he has, because it's impacting us. And I think against teams like Brighton, maybe against Leeds as well, maybe against Leicester, you can't afford a player who's. I mean, today everyone was bad, as Dolan said, so you can't really judge him on today. But I'm thinking more in the past few games, you can't afford a player who floats through games. So I would like to maybe see us change it up a little bit, because I think playing with a 10 has done us well this season in certain games. But I think now where teams are obviously coming up with a game plan against us, I think we need to start varying up a bit, maybe moving Jack to the middle, maybe even looking to move Sanson in there. And I actually think McGinn as well. I think we're nullifying McGinn a little bit by playing that deeper role. He did well in terms of interceptions and tracking back and working hard, but his passing, he's not the most technical player when it comes to intricate passes. He's more of a box to box player. He thrives on fast breaks away, and thrives on sort of rolling players and just being high energy. And I think he playing that sitting role sometimes he can do well because he's so good at getting back, but I think he does nullify it, and we don't play to his strengths. So maybe something like Sanson and Louise sitting and getting McGinn maybe further forward, or maybe Sanson getting further forward. I think I'd like to see just something a little bit different. And that's not to say Barkley hasn't played well. He's been fantastic for us this season. I just think, I think maybe he needs a bit of time out of the team, maybe, or just we need to vary up a little bit. We need to change it. We need to do something different. And Leeds is going to be a very difficult game for us, I think. And I don't think we can afford to play in the same way, in the same style. So we just need to be a bit careful, I think.
Yeah, I guess Dolan people will say when Barkley was out and Jack was playing as a 10, we had El Ghazi on the left cutting in and Traore cutting in from the right. We were a bit more fluid and we were playing some really nice football. And since we have come away from that, I mean, Barkley won us the game against Southampton, to be fair to him. But since we have changed that, it hasn't been as free-flowing.
Yeah, he's not like himself since he's come back. I was watching a few of the games when he joined yesterday, just pinging across some highlights from earlier games, and he was unbelievable when he came into the team, and he hasn't been himself. And I think there's no doubt the guy's been around the game long enough, and he'll know himself he's not up to it. And that's probably why the frustration is there, because he knows deep down he's not been playing well, and he knows he's being taken off because he hasn't played well. But as you said, he's won us the game against Southampton. He's arguably won us 6 points, with a bit of magic, and you often look at footballers and you talk about game winners and match winners. He's earned us six points on his own, which in itself is a pretty good return, along with the assists against Liverpool and the goals. He was brilliant in those first 4 or 5 games, but again, he hasn't played an awful lot of football in the last few years, and he's probably felt very unwanted. He's had a few bad injuries, kind of went in at Chelsea and kind of in and out. Hasn't played much in the last 12 months, coming to us. Again, who knows what his sort of personal situation is, where he's living, is he settled? Again, all these things come into play, and he had a bad injury there, and came back, and he's looked a little bit leggy, and almost kind of like he's lost a half yard of pace. But I would agree. I mean, if there's a time to mix up the midfield, it's now. I think our weakest area has been the midfield. Last 4 or 5 games, I thought our strongest area at the start of the season was the midfield. 12 games, we looked outstanding, and then all of a sudden against West Ham, we just got completely flattened in the centre of the park. And again tonight, we haven't played well in the middle of the park, and we've been battered essentially. So it's certainly an area of the pitch where when we have an off day, we get found out massively. And looking back on it, wasn't Nakamba unlucky to come out? Yeah, he was. Did Louise play? Was Louise okay? He was all right. He was okay. But again, nobody was above a 7 tonight.
Was anyone at a 7?
Maybe nobody was even above a 6. 5, 4, 5s, 4s and 5s across the board. Maybe an 8 or a 9 for the keeper. But it was a really bad day at the office. But we've come away with a point, Again, we've got another 6 days, 4 or 5 days to recover. And you hear about Smith. We've done very little training as well. It's about recovery. It's all about recovery, and we'll go away now for a couple of days. Probably have a couple of days off, come back in, a few sessions, and then we're off to Leeds again. So it's a really grueling time for any footballer. So get the 40 points and kick on. But like I say, I'm really happy with that point tonight. I thought it was a great point. Thought we were probably arguably the worst we've played all season, and we've come away with a clean sheet and a good point on the road.
I thought I was going mad, but I'm actually the one who's right. We've got Leicester next week.
Yeah, sorry,
Sunday.
It's Leicester.
So it's Leicester first at
Leicester.
Park, and then it's
Leicester.
Leeds.
Yeah.
The weekend after. For once, I'm actually on top of the fixtures, which is a complete shock. Just sticking with Barkley a little bit, Omar. I think we've got a bit of a problem because I think he's only going to get better by playing. I admittedly, you can see we're carrying him a little bit at the moment, but I think he's one of those players that need games. He looks a bit heavy to me since he's come back as well. I mean, that's just pure speculation on my behalf. It's just what I'm looking at with my eyes. But he's, like Dolan says, he's a yard off what he was at before he got injury. We're probably paying him, a fair amount of money as well, a big amount of money. There might even be something in his contract, I don't know, where we have to play him. So we might be in the situation where we have to play him, but to make him better, we have to play him as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult, isn't it? Because I think it's a bit of a dilemma for Dino because, he hasn't played well. Even Leicester City game when he scored that winner, he wasn't his best game, but he's the kind of player who's got that end product that he can do a bit. He's got that bit of magic in him. He can make that pass. He can have that shot where he's going to win you the game, and he's. You're talking about 6 points is one. You could argue say probably 9 or 12 points with the Liverpool game, but also I think more importantly the Arsenal game away as well. I thought it was his best game all season. So he's got that bit of magic. You saw against Southampton. That was a difficult header. I know Jack did really well, but it's still a difficult header and he did it so well and calmly as well. I think he's got that bit of quality that we need in the team. So it's difficult. Do you take him out of the team and then take him out of the team and will the players from the bench add anything? I think we saw today Trez, didn't really do much today and hasn't really done much. Ghazi hasn't really done much from the bench ever really, apart from the Wolves penalty. So it's a difficult one. I think we still lack a bit of an attacking threat from the bench. I think we need a little bit more. And Sanson's still bedding in, so all very well saying, and I'm saying as well, obviously, that Sanson should start the next game or come in, but it's a new team for him and it's a new club, a new country. He's still trying to embed into the team. So is it a difficult game to put him in against Leicester City, who are one of the form sides?
I'd say the next two against high tempo teams, they're not ideal games to just throw someone in who's not used to the league.
I think we just need to think about how we set up. We like to leave Ollie and Barkley high up the pitch and use them as a two-man press, but they haven't been effective. Ross especially hasn't been effective. He's not pressing.
I think with McGinn's energy against the next two games, you want to be pushing John McGinn further forward and just getting in and around it and and winning that press and winning that first ball and setting the likes of Watkins and Grealish and Traore free. I do think McGinn's a little bit wasted playing so deep. As you said, Omar, he's not technically gifted, playing as a kind of a deep number sort of 6, or as he probably is at the minute. And
do you think we lack a bit of physical presence though? I think we've got even Sanson's come in, McGinn, Louise, all very similar type of players. We haven't really got a proper. We haven't got an Ndidi or a Hober or someone like that who knows how to play.
We haven't had an enforcer in probably since the likes of
Carlos Sanchez.
Yeah, well, probably Tails has been the last kind of real sort of.
No, Boateng.
Boateng was the last one.
Tails and Boateng were for sort of similar era, but yeah, you're right. We haven't had
Gavin McCann.
The industrial Gavin McCann. We haven't really had a proper kind of Vieira and Didi. There's a list of Petit, Roy Keane. We haven't had that really for 15, 20 years. Even under O'Neill, we didn't really have. Who do we have playing in centre of the park? Milner, Petrov, and Barry. Again, all very, very similar in terms of stature and physical attributes. So I just think, listen, I'm not going to start looking and go, oh, take McGinn out, take Louise out, it's just a bad night at the office, and you have them. Do you think Liverpool are going to look and go, Fabinho and Thiago, get them out? They're dreadful. They got beat by Burnley and Brighton. Do you think Mourinho's going to look at Ndombele and Højbjerg and go, oof, that's a little bit light, that midfield? No, it's not. They've just had a lot of teams are going to have off days, and I think it's easy to criticize players when things aren't going right. And I just think I agree. I think when our midfield is not on point are the games where we suffer. McGinn, Barkley, and Luis have to be playing 8 out of 10 from minute 1 to minute 93 or 94 to really make an impact. And the games where we've got beaten, we've lost it. We've lost it in midfield. We have, because they haven't been that link. There has been that link between maybe Barkley and Grealish. McGinn and Traore. Luis, like you saw that game against Arsenal, Luis sort of pinging it over to Barkley, 1, 2, 3, back of the net. It's that kind of link up play when we're on point is so pivotal. And like I say, the games that we've lost. The midfield hasn't been there, but again, I think overall, you look at the midfield as the kind of second form of defence, and again, we kept the clean sheet tonight. And what's that? 12 clean sheets? 12 clean sheets?
Yeah, 12.
12 clean sheets. Honestly, it's hard to criticise it. You defend and attack as a team, and we defended as a team tonight very well. From back to front, we defended as a team. And we got another clean sheet, and we were dreadful going forward. So I think we're going to look anything. It was going forward tonight. I think as a unit we were strong, but just up top we just didn't. We just looked off it. We couldn't string a pass together. Couldn't string any kind of patterns of play together. Watkins was never in the game. Traore was never in the game. Probably Jack's quietest game I've seen for Villa in the guts of 2 or 3 years, which is saying something. For Jack to have an off day, it's literally a first in like 3 years. So he's due a quiet night, and like I say, it was one of those off nights. I thought actually early on, Jack was targeted earlier on. I was worried he might lose the head and get sent off. There was a few little niggles in the first half, and he got booked, and they were obviously targeting him as every team does, and kind of feared he might get sent off. I think players like him who are so good, there's the frustration of knowing that you're not playing well and your team's not playing well, and you tend to sort of get really frustrated. But like Barkley, he knows he isn't playing well, and that's where the frustration comes. So for Jack to escape, like I say, a red card and to come away unscathed is a positive. But to say that the one negative that I'm taking away tonight is losing Matt Cash, and it'll be interesting to see what Dean Smith has to say, obviously post match, and be. He
said we were below bang average. I saw it pop up below bang average.
But so that's a good mentality, though, isn't it? That's what I like about this team. I think we've got an elite mentality now with Dino. He knows when it's not good enough, and there's so many times this season where we've bounced back from really bad performances. West Ham, we bounced back with a win against Arsenal. We've done it in the past against
Burnley. We won against Southampton.
Southampton, yeah, and it wasn't the best performance, but we ground out a win. And even last year, earlier on in the season, when we lost a couple in a row, we bounced back with victories against Arsenal and then a win against Wolves. So I'm backing this team to come back stronger, and it's going to be a difficult game against Leicester. But Leicester have been in good form, but even then, they lost against Leeds recently as well and didn't play that well. So they can be got at. It's just, I do think we need to change it up a little bit. I do think we need to think about what we're doing, because today, what we saw today was Ollie Watkins is so important to us. He's our outball, and he gets us high up the pitch. We like to go direct to the left-hand channel early on, straight away, and then build from there and try and keep the ball from there and try and build our attacks from there. And I think we really struggled today because Veltman did well and Bissouma did well, and they cut those passes off. And I think teams will try and do that against us. So I think we just need to think about whether it's different personnel or the way that we play. I don't know, but we need to think about it, because McGinn and Louise were spending too much time defending today. They weren't being box to box. Normally, one of them drives forward as a almost like a semi number 8 at times, and neither of them did that today. So we just need to think about how we play going forward, because it hasn't been really good. I mean, and Dean, I'm sure Dean will say the same thing. He hasn't been good enough for the last few games. Of performances haven't been at the same levels as we, and we set ourselves high standards now as a team, and that's important. So I'm sure we'll bounce back, and I'm sure Dean's worried and concerned, but at the same time, I'm sure he's got a plan.
Yeah, you guys are out of order as well, talking about midfield enforcers and not talking about Yakuba Silla. You bang out of order, but
you're
absolutely outrageous.
Asai Osborne.
Was I Osborne? Yes, so there's been some good enforcers.
To be fair to Silla, I think we were going down before he came in.
Yeah, we were. To be fair, that probably says it all, doesn't it? That he came in and saved us from going down. Good old Yakuba Silla. I think, just to finish, I think teams have wised up to us a little bit. We're now coming up against teams who are giving us a lot of respect and changing the way they play. And Brighton were probably deeper tonight than I've ever seen them. They're quite an attacking side, and they did attack us. But defensively, they were quite compact, which I've not really seen from them in any other game. So it's a sign of respect as well that teams are thinking about how they set up against us, probably more than they were at the start of the season when we were coming